Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm documenting my journey of my plan to move abroad. I'll be sharing the ups and downs and everything that I learned along the way. Did you know that you can live in Europe for a year at a time without dealing with the strict Schengen visa rules? Let's talk about Albania. I'm here to do a deep dive in one of the countries that I'm considering, and that would be Albania. Let's start with the good stuff, the pros of living in Albania. First, the cost of living is very affordable compared to other countries in Western Europe. Rent, food, and your daily expenses are much more affordable, which makes it ideal for someone like me who is on a budget. If you're trying to stretch that budget, Albania is a good choice. Secondly, they offer a 1-year renewable resident permit. This allows you to be able to live in the country for a long period of time, and you can renew it. And it's a lot better than other European countries who don't allow that. Many of them only allow you to be in the country for 90 days. Because Albania is not in the Schengen zone, you don't have to worry about that. This alone gives you more flexibility than having to hop in and out of countries that have a shorter stay period for people who don't have a visa. Now, this is for U.S. citizens. If you're not a U.S. citizen, these rules do not apply, so I can't really speak on other citizens, but if you're a U.S. citizen, this is the rules for Albania. Another plus is Albanians are known for being super friendly and very kind and welcoming to their country. This leads me to my next point, which is the safety of Black women in Albania. There's also a growing expat community. I hate using the expat word, I really do. But there's a growing community of people immigrating to Albania. Now, I've checked Reddit threads and some other videos about Black women and how safe they feel in Albania, commuting around the city, hanging out late at night, things of that nature. One user says she felt safe walking at night through the streets. And another Black female traveler does solo traveling, so she's by herself and she felt safe. That is very important. If you're traveling alone and you're in a country where you feel safe, that says a lot. And then we have another commenter that said basically they, noticed they were getting stares and a lot of looks, but it was more out of curiosity, not out of like disgust or anything like that. So there is a difference, and you have to have a little bit of discernment to be able to tell, okay, this person's looking at me in a way that I don't feel comfortable, or this person's looking at me in a way that makes me feel like they're admiring me. And there's very few documented reports of any like violence or any attacks based on race. So it's just not a thing that we're hearing a lot about, which is a good thing. But Albania is in Europe, so you never really know what you're going to deal with. And these are just some of the stories of people and how they feel about being in Albania as a whole, as a Black woman. But everyone has to have their own experience. But it is nice to see other people's feedback to kind of know what you can expect, but always be cautious, always keep your head on a swivel, always pay attention to your surroundings, and always make sure that you're mindful of what's going on around you. And with there being a language barrier, there's always going to be things that may make you a little uncomfortable because, again, there's a language barrier. You don't understand the language. They might not understand you, and miscommunication can definitely happen. Another wonderful thing about Albania is the mountains and the beaches. It is a beautiful country, and the weather is amazing. I think, since I have never been there, I can't really say, but from what I've read, it seems like it has very similar weather to Portugal. I've been to Portugal. I went to Portugal in February, which was, a cooler time of the year for the most part, and the weather was perfect. It was almost like fall weather there. You can wear jackets, you can wear a little bit heavier clothes, but not like heavy, like you had to bundle up. It was just like perfect weather. And I think that Albania has a very similar type of climate, and I'm looking forward to that. And you get the Mediterranean vibe without the cost, which is amazing. And also, Albania is a candidate for EU membership. It's not there yet, but down the road, it will give you more freedom to travel around Europe and give you more benefits with living in that country. Another thing about Albania that I really love is that the proximity to other countries within Europe is amazing. So for example, if you live in Albania, you can take a flight to Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Greece, a lot of different places, Italy, a lot of different places, and it's inexpensive. It's not going to cost you $400 or $500 to take that plane trip to go to those countries. A plane trip to from Albania to like Ireland or Portugal is like $200 and some dollars. Round trip. I love that. It's almost like a really good landing place, a place for you to kind of settle down at, you know, work on getting your residency, get that residency, and you can just like go and vacation in all these different places. And it's not going to be very expensive for you to get there. That to me is amazing. That is like one of the things that is on the top. Other than the visa and temporary residence, the ease of that, being able to travel from there to all these different places inexpensively is a very, very good perk for living in Albania. Now, as far as the cons, it's the main thing I see a lot with Albania is the bureaucracy, the paperwork, and the speed at which things like that happen when you're trying to get things taken care of as far as visas and temporary residency. Now, I see that a lot every time I look up anything about Albania, like the pros and cons. Some of the videos I've watched, they all kind of point to that same issue, the bureaucracy. So yeah, from what I'm hearing, it's just a lot of like slowness when it comes to like paperwork and getting things accomplished when it comes to like visas and just anything that you need to get done as far as important stuff, like getting your visa, temporary residency, things like that. The paperwork, the processes can be a little slow. So that's just something to expect, something to be mindful of if Albania ends up being your choice. Another thing is, of course, is the language barrier, which you're going to have to deal with that anywhere you go. Their native language is Albanian, so people do speak English there, but a lot of times if you're going in like the smaller areas and the more rural areas, you may not find a lot of English speaking people. So just something else to be mindful of as far as the cons when it comes to Albania. And the healthcare is improving, but it's still below Western standards. So that's another thing to be mindful of. If you have something really serious going on, you may have to like go to another country to get certain procedures done. So that's another thing to be mindful of. But again, these are all things to be mindful of. We don't want to put it out in the universe that we're going to have some type of serious major health issues. So let's just hope that doesn't even happen and we won't have to worry about that. Because again, I feel like that's another perk to live in somewhere like Albania, because it's a walkable city, or at least it can be, depending on like what area you plan to live in. But for the most part, if you're going to like Tirana or maybe even Doris, those locations are kind of on the walkable side. So a lot of times you're going to be walking to do almost everything that you do. Fresh food, fresh vegetables, just better quality of food, healthier food is going to be accessible. Like here in the States, like personally, I am very close to almost living in a food desert. I don't live in a food desert, but if I lived a little bit further like south or a little bit further east from where I live, I would definitely be in a food desert. So just things like that. Like if you don't have a car when you live in the States, you don't have access to a lot of stuff. So that's just a comparison to what a lot of people deal with here in the States versus when you live in these other countries that are like have walkable cities. You have little grocery stores and shops that have like fruit and veggies just sitting out front almost all the time because the weather's always nice, always beautiful. Those are definitely pros to living in these other countries. And that's something that I am like really looking forward to, because food is my thing. Food is my jam. So being able to find food in that way, be looking forward to that kind of content. Because when I get that going, once I get my groove going on that, it's going to be on. It's going to be on and popping. Just letting you know. So in closing, overall, Albania is a great choice if you're looking for a place that again is a walkable city, has like Mediterranean vibes, at a lower cost than like places like Greece and maybe like Italy. It is a beautiful, budget-friendly place with a path to residency. That right there is key. For me, that's one of the main things that I'm looking for. Again, you want to be prepared for the language barrier, for the slow paperwork, the bureaucracy, things like that I mentioned before. So just be mindful of that. But also understand that you may deal with that a lot in other countries because other countries just work at a slower pace than we do in the States. In the States, we're always constantly in a rush, in a state of rush. We're always in a state of hustle, hustle, hustle. These other countries don't operate that way. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It will take some getting used to because we're not used to that. But I think that once we do, we'll be a lot happier. And I know a lot of people are saying that. They're a lot happier living in other countries because they've adjusted and acclimated themselves to that lifestyle of just slowing it down. Now, would I personally consider Albania? Absolutely. Because Albania is one of the number one places, as like I've already said, the ease with the visa process and the possibility of permanent residency, that to me is key. Plus all the other wonderful things about Albania. It is also a great starting point for Europe. But it really depends on your lifestyle, your budget, and your idea of what you want your home to look like abroad. So I've named 6 countries. Albania is one. Now, I just did a deep dive to give a little bit more information about Albania and what they have to offer, the pros and the cons, etc. I'm actually going to scratch off one of the 6 countries that I have listed in my previous video, and that's going to be Georgia. I'm going to replace Georgia with Ecuador. Ecuador also has an easier path to residency. Ecuador also has a low cost of living. Ecuador also has beaches, sun and fun and all that good stuff. Now it is in South America, so it's not really Mediterranean, but Ecuador is definitely on my list. It also has a great Black expat community. But I will be doing a deep dive on Ecuador as well, so stay tuned for that. But let me know in the comments, would Albania be in your list? Would that be a place you would consider? Have you ever even looked up Albania? Have you ever even heard of Albania? Because I swear, I don't think I've ever heard of Albania before like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. So, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow my journey of my plans to move abroad. Bye.